My name's Deep Phoenix, and I started off as a fingerstyle guitarist from Calcutta, India, but since then I've kind of grown. I've played a bunch of different musical styles and instruments at this point. I've collaborated with a bunch of artists back in my home country and here in Ireland, and yeah, just working on a bunch of different things. And I'm a community musician and student right now. So the way I play guitar is it's definitely not something that I came up with, because I saw this guy named Andy McKee do it on the internet about 14 years ago, I want to say, maybe 13. And yeah, it was really, it appealed to me because I hadn't learned how to play standard guitar at the time, and it seemed cool, so I wanted to try out like just changing tunings and everything, and I just happened to pick it up off of the videos back then. So this is still in 2011, maybe 2012. And before then, I had been playing guitar for a while, but I wasn't really getting much out of it. So it wasn't until I discovered Andy McKee, and then I discovered some other musicians around the world, really, that I kind of got into the style and wrote a bunch of music on it. And that's been the starting off point ever since. One of the songs that I played here was Things Will Get Better. That's a song that I wrote when I was 19, I want to say. And yeah, it's in one of those tunings that, like, I couldn't really hold a chord back then, so I just tuned the guitar to a chord and started playing, and came up with that whole thing in one night, really. And that's how it often works with the good stuff, I'd say. Like, you just practice up until a point where it just happens, and when it happens, you just go with it. And yeah, I put in a little bit of percussion and things, and made a whole stop motion animation music video when I got into college for the song. Now that video made it to an international film festival in our country, and I got to go attend that. And I don't think we won anything, maybe like second place or something, where we were nominated anyway. And that was my first experience with like working with film and of that nature. Since then, I think like the song got featured on another like collaborative video series, and that came up in my city called Friday Night Originals, where they featured a bunch of artists. And that has a whole clip of me talking about like how I think like the radios or like commercial music in our country is heavily dominated by Bollywood, and why Bollywood music is really dominating everything else, and why creative music pursuits are really going down in the dumps, because there's fewer spaces that people can be creative and or make original music, because of the influence of like commodified music, and the push of like whatever sells and whatever is mainstream, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to break into that scene anyway. I'm just happy doing my own thing, which kind of brings me to the other songs as well, like Travel Song and Familiar Blues. Familiar Blues is a song that I wrote in college, I'd say. And of course, Familiar Blues, it draws from like a bunch of other blues songs, Moral Travis being like the most predominant artist, I'd say. And I used to play that with a band, and then the band quit kind of over time. We graduated, right? And so I had to kind of figure out an arrangement to play that tune by myself. And same goes for the Travel Song, really. The Travel Song has all these different layers that build onto each other. So like I start off with a kick and a snare, and then you have the bass, and then the melody comes in, and that's basically like me teaching myself how to play guitar, but mostly with like one hand here and the other hand there, and like it's two different hands doing two different job roles and stuff. And yeah, Travel Song kind of worked out really fun, because like on we used to have class trips back when I was doing my graduation 10 years ago. And we used to go for an end of semester trip, and that was kind of something that unique to our class that we all did. Whether we got along or not, we always ended up on going on a trip. And on a 2-day train ride to Goa from the east to the west of India, I played that song for my friends, for my classmates for the first time, and a bunch of strangers started recording it, and I knew I was onto something. But yeah, I mean, the song kind of developed and grew since then. But actually, like, all the songs that I played were from the second album that I did in 2009. Oh no, well, the album came out in 2021, I want to say, maybe 2000. Oh no, wait, hang on, I've got my dates mixed up entirely. 2018 perhaps, or 19, around then. And it was entirely recorded in my bedroom, in one of the apartments that I was living in, with a Zoom microphone, a bunch of microphones around the guitar, and a line out from the guitar that went into a really noisy computer. Then you can still hear the fan noise on the computer. But the album did kind of well, and it was my second one. The first one I did was in a more proper studio, and I was just 18 at the time. So it's really like just a lot of the music with the guitar stuff that you see here. It's been me teaching myself how to play the guitar in weird ways, me teaching myself how music works, music composition works, because I simply didn't have access to a band, other musicians, space to play and practice, I guess. And like I couldn't do a lot of the things that you'd expect or you'd want to do as a teenager who's discovering music, like play with friends and someone plays the drums and someone plays guitar. I didn't have all of that, so I just like played it all by myself and wrote a bunch of songs on it. And then the pandemic happened and all of that, so it just changed. Now I produce music. I have a lot more stuff centered around piano, electric guitar, and like layers where I've played mandolin and ukulele and stuff like that. And going forward, yeah, I think that's going to expand a lot more. I might end up with a bunch of more instruments. Like any instrument I find, I'll end up playing, I think. So yeah.
So I think my process now is quite different to years ago. I think I used to kind of be striving for like photorealism, but at the start of this college year, I kind of had a experience of I was in hospital and I had access to kind of an art therapy or an art room, and it really changed my perspective on what art is for me. So now instead of focusing on making these like amazing masterpieces of like finished product, I'm more like enjoying the process of making the art and not being afraid to make mistakes and paint over stuff and kind of just like make it sort of loose and fun. So coming back to this year of college, and the place where I'm at with my art now is I'm working a lot on paper instead of canvas. I just find that I have the freedom to cut it up and I can work really large scale without actually, starting with a big large canvas, because that can be very scary, especially when you've put all this time into like preparing this big expensive thing. So I have like very cheap cartridge paper, and I'll just like put up maybe 2 or 3 pages, maybe 4, prime them with some gesso, and then paint on them, whatever, cut them up, rearrange them, and I can make them very big. So what I'm working on at the moment is, it's kind of very large scale. It's sort of, I'm making it to wrap around an entire section of a studio. So I think it's about 2 meters high anyway. I can't remember the length of it, but it's very big. Yeah, and the imagery that's happening is usually coming from my sketchbooks. Lately I have been referencing photos more, and I'll be kind of referencing like Greek sculptures and Greek pots. The sketches you get on the pottery are really interesting. I love the way they're drawing the figure in those, like really cartoon but like expressive. But usually, like, as well as referencing the images, I also try to reference my own sketches, so like from imagination or from an image. So I'll kind of work into a sketchbook first, and then so when I come to actually painting the picture from my sketchbook, it's more loose and free, because I find if I start just from the image, I can get very like stuck in trying to replicate it perfectly. I think that my art is a lot about storytelling and narratives, but I'm kind of, I'm not trying to tell a specific story. So, especially with these pages I'm working on at the moment, I'm able to move them around and like switch them out. So even if I do like come to the piece with a kind of idea of what I want it to be, it usually doesn't end up looking like that anyway. I feel like I kind of treat the pages a little bit like tarot cards sometimes, that when you have them together, they're telling a specific story, but then they're sort of like this endless book of stories that's unbound, because you can just change it all the time. So when they're in order, it's one story. They're a different order, there's another story. There's a million different stories that can be told. So, and I kind of want people to bring their own experiences to my artwork. Like, we usually kind of start with a bit of my own experience, try not to get too stuck on my own things, but I don't want it to be like explicitly about me, even though of course it's going to be about me because I'm making it. But I want other people to be able to relate to it and see their own kind of stories, or because there's so many images happening at the same time and like layered on top of each other, I think different people will see it differently and like pull out different elements of it first. Yeah, I definitely, I just want people to have that kind of freedom when looking at my art, that it's not trying to tell them a specific thing, The difference in my process from a few years ago, because now I have an interest a bit more in art therapy and like the value of the process over the object itself. And that kind of makes my art way more like loose and playful. I'm not trying to make this amazing thing. It's just like, it is what it is. I'm kind of just having fun with the painting and just being expressive. I've always been really into drawing, and I've always loved drawing in my sketchbook. So the style of art that I'm doing now has always been there. It's just that I've kind of like been hiding it in my sketchbook and not being confident enough to like put it up on the walls in front of all my like peers and tutors and stuff. And I didn't really know what people would think of it, because some of it is like I'm painting really like cartoon and like warped bodies and stuff, and I feel like a lot of people will look at that and be like, oh, this person can't draw. So then every now and again I get this like pressure to go back and be like, no, I can draw, look, this realistic thing. But yeah. I feel like confusion is one of the first things I want people to think when they look at my art. Just that I just want there to be a lot of things happening, so your first initial response to it is sort of like, oh, what is this? But then the longer you look at it, that you kind of like see like disturbing or funny or like gross, intriguing. I've been drawing since I like can remember, and the feeling of like you have a blank page in front of you and you're just like, oh, anything could happen, and it's so exciting, this like whole world you now see in front of you. It's different when you go to art college. And then I deferred college, so I was like doing my own thing for a year, and I kind of took a break from art. And then when I came back, I think I was just like that year older, had more experiences. I think I had more confidence in myself too, and I was just sort of like, you know, I don't care if people think I'm crap at art, like this is what it is. Not trying to like impress people anymore. When I have the degree show and stuff, and like when people are talking to me, I wonder if anyone is going to ask me like, so why do you always draw women? It's like, I don't know, it's just so fun to draw. Like, I'd only exclusively draw, like, naked women. That's, like, my art is figurative, and it's always ladies. Sometimes I draw men, but, like, it's very rare. I think when I was a kid, I have vivid memories of, there was, like, these women. I've just always been drawing women. There's pictures from when I was 8 of, like, women in lingerie I'd be drawing. I was like, it has not changed. When you see my art now that's in the studio, it's like, there's not a scrap of clothing in the whole piece. But I have like vivid memories of, I'd be drawing like these ladies with like big red lips and like crazy eyelashes, and I think I was probably like 4, but I'd just be like, oh, these girls, like they're great. And then I think one of my first memories of drawing was, my mum is an artist as well, and she had drawn me like this lady, and then I just remember like drawing in cleavage. Yeah, I think like when I'm painting figures, some of the reasons behind why I think is I'm sort of like painting like bodies that I wish I had, or like painting my insecurities of my body, but like really accentuating them. So then I'm looking at this thing that's not me, but I'm like, oh, it is actually beautiful and nice and fun and cute. And it's like a kind of a self-acceptance, I think, is why I'm painting people sometimes. And then other times, like, I'll be painting like real expressive poses, and I feel like you nearly like feel the pose in your body when you're painting it, like these big like open, sweeping, confident poses. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like joy to be found in painting bodies. You really relate to it. The other people probably relate to it as well.